We'd like to thank you for joining us today for Medicaid Home and Community-Based Waiver, the Partnership for Hope Waiver overview. Today we have Shelley Summers from the Federal Programs Unit with us. She will be doing today's presentation. Just a couple reminders. You are muted upon entry, so you are muted. We ask that you go ahead and mute your line, just in case. Also, if you have questions regarding technical issues, if you want to send those in the chat box. If you have questions regarding the content, submit those through the Q&A. We won't be answering those live during the webinar. However, those will be compiled, and we'll disseminate a document that has those questions and answers at a later date. So, any further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Shelley for today's presentation.
That you could join us for the second webinar of the Federal Programs Unit webinar series. This CBS webinar will provide a more detailed overview of the Partnership for Hope, known as the PFH waiver. This is the purpose of the waiver, the service it provides, and how the waivers are similar and yet different. This one somewhat like a repeat, but we will make sure to be consistent with the waiver information, and of course, each webinar may have some new listeners. So what is a waiver, known as HCBS? HCBS waivers provide community services to participants who otherwise would be put in an institution, nursing home, or hospital to receive long-term care in the community. HCBS is about participants having the most integrated lifestyle as possible, just like you and me. Funding for the HCBS waivers in Missouri consists of matching approximately 36% of state general revenue dollars with approximately 64% of federal dollars. Each of the waivers, the target population, the participants that are served, what's covered, and how we'll spend on services in each waiver. The Partner Hope is a based waiver that is a result of a partnership between the Missouri Association of County Developmental Disability Services, the Division of Developmental Disabilities, and the MONET Division. Early research on practices in the waiver development was supported by a grant from the Missouri Foundation for Health to the Missouri Association of County Developmental Disability Services. This map shows the current participating counties, which is now over 100 plus counties at the present time. A new Social Security Act was added, which authorized state Medicaid agencies to apply for these HCBS waivers. Participants no longer had to live in institutions in order to receive Medicaid. They could dollars into the community. In 2010, Missouri implemented its Partner Hope waiver. The target population was for people with developmental disabilities. The capacity to serve over 3,200 participants in this waiver. The last version was approved by the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, which was effective July 1st, 2018. For 5 years, and that'll be 2023. The waiver process starts over a year in advance. During the renewal, CMS approved change of the cycle years to July 1st through July 30th, and that's aligned with all the other division waivers. As you know, the Partnership for Hope waiver was from October through September, so all the waivers are on the same waiver cycle. What you need to know about the Partnership for Hope. 2,700 participants and has an individual cost cap of $12,362. There is an exception process to exceed the individual cost cap. As stated, matches approximately 36% of state general revenue dollars, with approximately 64% being funded by federal dollars. The Senate Bill 40 and the division of DD each pay half of the state's match for each Partnership for Hope waiver slot. Waiver is different from other waivers. It has peer support, which is a new service that is designed to provide non-clinical family support by sharing valuable personal knowledge-based experience in supporting and providing care to a family member DD disability. Also, services are covered under the state, also covered under state plan for children and adults, but there are still services through the Partnership for Hope, but they are not to duplicate or supplant the state plan services. There's also residential service, which is care provided in the individual's place of residence, the community, or outside the home, and a licensed, accredited, certified waiver residential facility, very similar to respite in the other waivers. Must be residing in a participating county and meet a priority. The partnership and that access to the waiver is based on the two categories, crisis and priority. Like the other waivers, which uses a tool that assigns a score between 0 and 12 for each waiver applicant, with indicating the highest priority of need. Information about the PON process, it is described in 9 CSR 45-2.017. Applicant's crisis criteria will be the first served. If multiple county meet crisis criteria, the person waiting the longest will be served first. This category, the applicants who meet priority criteria been waiting the longest may be served. The Synods determine the category for each applicant. So, in priority category list on the nav equal weight. A crisis considered the conditions that pose a serious risk, immediate harm or death to an individual or others. Loss of a caregiver, support, change in caregiver status to the extent that the caregiver not meet the need of the individual, neglect or exploitation of the individual. A priority considered instances or conditions necessitate substantial accommodations that cannot be reasonably provided by an individual's primary caregiver. Person who has both educational and vocational rehabilitation benefits or is not eligible for VR benefits and have for pre-employment or employment services, have been reports from local funding for 3 more and services that are still needed, and this can be covered by the waiver, or a person living in a non-Medicaid funded RCF chooses to transition to the community and are capable of residing in a less restrictive environment with access to the Partnership for Hope waiver. State plan services. For items that are medically necessary, MOHUD state plan services must first be utilized before waiver services can be authorized. For MOHUD approved funding, it must be a medical necessity, so it is determined if the need is for safety, convenience, or medical necessity. The division collaboration with MoHealthNet to create a document explaining what durable medical equipment items will be covered or not covered through MoHealthNet. State non-emergency medical transportation, durable medical equipment, and there are just a few listed there on that slide. So here's the list of the 24 services available in the Partnership for Hope waiver to meet the needs and flexibility of the individuals supported in this waiver. keep in mind about all DD waivers. Apply for both the Department of Health and Senior Services and the Department of Health waivers. However, can receive services in one waiver at a time. The coordinator should work with DHSS to ensure the participant isn't in two waivers at the same time. Not consume direct state plan and direct DD waiver services at the same time. Also, home solutions may not be furnished to adapt living arrangements that are owned or leased by providers of waiver services. These items would be considered provider-owned and controlled. Also, have an ongoing monthly waiver service need that is documented in their ISP. If the need for the service is less than monthly, the participant requires regular monthly monitoring, which must be documented in their plan. Record reviews. They are mandatory for all waivers. CMS Lead Agency, which is MoHealthNet, take oversight to the division, the operating agency of the DD waivers. MoHealth requests a statistically valid sample of waiver records to review for compliance and to verify if the division is meeting the required expectations. MoHealthNet is the level of care determination, individual plans, the Medicaid provider service choice statements, to determine the level of care, more service authorizations, and/or quarterly reviews for that fiscal year requested. The division to report quarterly and annually to MoHealthNet. These listed here address important dimensions of waiver quality and assurances that the support plans are designed to meet the needs of the waiver participants and that there are effective systems in place to monitor participants' health and welfare. Provider qualifications. So for waiver assurances regarding provider qualifications, that is either license and certification or be done by accredited organizations to ensure the compliance. And here, important helpful resource links. We have the Partnership for Hope application, the current DD waiver manual, the Federal Unit link, the partnership page, and then the Home and Community-Based Services Transition Plan. Thank you for your time, and I sure hope this webinar was helpful.